the article then talks about, well, veterans who make a lot of money maybe shouldn't be paid.
Okay.
They talk about, they entertain the option of means testing.
And what do we mean by means testing?
So means testing, basically, veterans right now who receive a service-connected disability, regardless of whether they're employed, unemployed, underemployed, overemployed, you're entitled to that compensation for a service-connected disability, period. The Washington Post, along with the Congressional Budget Office, and as we found in our magazine archives, the Bradley Commission, recommended restricting who gets monetary payments and restricting those monetary payments based on your occupational success. Anybody on the panel want to tell me what we actually compensate for when it comes to service-connected disabilities?
Oh, well, what about we go over to Pat Murray to see what he thinks we get compensated for?
So for those that don't know, I have a prosthetic leg. I got my right leg blown to pieces September 4th, 2006, Fallujah, Iraq. So I walk around with a prosthetic every day. I have a wheelchair. There are many things that cost a little bit more money when you don't have the same mobility as our two-legged brothers and sisters have. There are things that start to add up. The disability compensation is supposed to compensate me for some of those added expenses due to my disability. It could be, loss of the same type of employment, but also it is to make up for, those out-of-pocket expenses that I have to incur. There are some things that, and, not to nickel and dime it, but the car that I drive has to be a little bit different. The way my prosthetic works is a right prosthetic, so I can't use my right foot for the gas pedal. I need to use my left foot, or I could use hand controls. Either way, putting that in a vehicle costs additional money. But to get a vehicle that I'm comfortable with, I need to be sitting more upright without your feet kind of out in front of you like a sedan. Taller, bigger trucks cost more money, right? So like things like that, having to get a generally more expensive car because an SUV or a truck is more expensive than a Toyota Corolla or something like that. I can't walk more than half a mile without really starting to get out of breath and starting to sweat. So when I used to work with you guys on Capitol Hill, walking to meetings, that meant taking an Uber, something that might be 3/4 of a mile or a mile. In places like that, that's like $25. So that's $50 round trip. And that was 3-4 times a week. You start to add those up, that costs additional money. On top of that, my clothes. I don't have a single pair of pants, shorts, underwear that doesn't have holes in it from my prosthetic. It'll even rip through jeans. Jeans are a pretty tough material, but they'll eventually work their way through that. So nicer pants, suit pants are not cheap. I do get some compensation from VA for a clothing allowance, but it's like $700-800 annually, which is helpful. But when you start talking about ripping through every pair of pants or shorts you own, that exceeds $700-800. So the point of disability compensation is to try to make me about as whole as it can be because I'm not getting my leg back. So, the folks in the Washington Post, the folks in the Economist, anybody who wants to talk about means testing, because I was, happily, gainfully employed with the VFW, I was making good money, but there were still a ton of out-of-pocket costs that my disability, put on me and my family. So, for anybody that wants to talk about means testing, I invite them to come have a sit-down conversation with someone like me and let me explain why some of these things are important to myself and the other veterans that are in similar situations.
Wow. But I do have one solution. You probably get one of those Japanese left drive cars, where everything's on the opposite side and you're sitting up. I don't know.
I tried to buy a Toyota Hilux, man. Those things are tough to find.
Yeah. Well, that goes to show you how difficult. What'd you say? Go ahead.
It's not impossible, but very tough.
Very tough to get those Hiluxes.
So part of the other side of that is, based on your injury or illness, you may not be able to return to the same occupational field as you had prior.
Yeah, Pat, what did you want to be before you deployed?
Funny story, Mike. I had a employment offer from the town of North Kingstown to be a firefighter before I went on deployment to Iraq. And so I guess it was 2005 beforehand. I returned minus one leg I can't be a firefighter. I mean, I could have possibly, still been on the job, worked in the dispatch office or something like that in the administrative part of it, but I could not carry someone up and down a ladder, right? If God forbid someone were, their life needed saving, the men and women of the fire department do fantastic work. I'd be mad if someone like me walked in there or limped in there and told them like, you're gonna have to get yourself out of the house. I can't carry you. So like there are things like that. I could not return to the job that I wanted since I was, a little kid. I had that opportunity, but I couldn't take advantage of it any longer.
And you wouldn't be compensated in the same manner as a firefighter as opposed to a dispatcher, correct?
Correct.
Therefore, VA compensation is meant to bridge the gap for lost wages due to injury or illness. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree.
Thank you. I had a lot of that yesterday. I can't get it out of my system.
Well, this touches on another topic of it. We're the social impact. It's not just occupational impairment. It's social impairment. It's things like what you can or can't do with your kids. It's really the human impact. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna get a little vulnerable as well. During COVID-19, had some struggles. Had mental health challenges since I came back from Iraq in 2004. Pat found me on the floor having a panic attack one day, and my daughter rubbing my back. My kids are not okay. And there are out-of-pocket costs that come with that. There's a human toll. There's a human impact. And Pat, you would talk about the human impact as well of losing a limb and what that means moving forward.
So I mean, like, there are things that my son is, as we talked about, I'm in Rhode Island, new father, trying to raise our son around family. I'm not going to be able to teach him to ride a bike. I can't physically ride a bike the same way that, other normal people can. So I'm going to have to sit and watch that as my wife teaches them how to ride a bike. I'm not going to get a chance to do that. So I don't know what dollar amount you would assign to that, but that kind of sucks. There were things this year. I couldn't go in the water. Rhode Island is, the ocean state, famously some of the best beaches in America. I'll plant my flag on that one. But, I had our family down, a bunch of cousins that I haven't seen in a long time. Our son, we took him in the water for the first time. I had to sit on the grass like a jackass because I don't have a water leg. My leg has a computer processing chip in it. I can't take that in the water. Again, I learned the hard way. It'll
I was going to say.
And then you are days without a functioning prosthetic. So I had to sit on the grass and watch everybody else enjoy taking our son in the water. That's not fun. So again, I don't know what dollar amount you can assign to that, but those aren't things that I'm getting back. Some of those like core memories. So, if somebody wants to means test or find a way to means test losing valuable core memory building things with your family, I encourage them to put some pen to paper and figure out how we can do that, how to compensate me for that loss of some of those memories.
Yeah.
And that broader human impact, the Washington Post says this is going to be a series. I wonder if they're ever going to delve into that. Probably not, based on the other things they've published to this point. But, we talk about occupational impairment and things like that. The Military Transition Assistance Program focused on veteran unemployment. And good news, let's get the mission accomplished banner up there. We solve that. Veteran unemployment is persistently lower than non-veteran unemployment. But what about the social aspects of it? What about suicide? Mm-hmm. What about isolation? What about divorce rates or incarceration, involvement with law enforcement? I think that has a lot to do with the social impairment. And what kind of message are we looking to send to veterans that, those of us here at the Washington Post and the Economist, it seems expensive. I don't know why we need to do that.
I think some people have lost, have forgotten that there is a cost to war. Mm-hmm. And it's a lingering cost that continues well after we bring troops home. And to forget that is a disservice. And I think it also impacts how young people today are looking at service in the military. Mm-hmm. These kind of articles really I think they have the potential of impacting recruitment for the military today. How are we going to have a strong military if we're pulling back benefits for veterans?
Right.
What does that tell a young person about how we're going to take care of them if they do get injured, if they do have conditions? So it's such a negative message. And I think for all of us who served, have a lot of pride in our service. And this just takes away so much of that, what the service really means.
Yeah.